Hello everyone, welcome to Datu's Corner Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim. And my video is going wild here. Okay, so I've got multiple things going on. I just updated a bunch of the stuff that we're doing here. So, right now, there's a lot of stuff going on here on my end that's throwing some things off. But we've recently updated the system. We are now doing the 1080 DP, and I'm broadcasting live. Thanks, Mr. Facebook user, for the sweet intro comment. I don't know who that is, but thank you. So we are broadcasting here on Facebook, multiple channels or pages, as well as YouTube. So when this is all done, by all means, people, feel free to share this wherever you feel that is appropriate. So now, let's talk about the topic. So the topic is toxic people bringing us down. Now, let me give you a little backstory. So this didn't happen just this weekend, and things have been happening for quite some time. And during COVID, it made me reassess things. So, and I understand we're going through COVID cabin fever. But that doesn't give people a right to be the way they are. That explains their behavior. It doesn't justify it. So, now, I see this in the martial art industry as a whole. It's not just Filipino martial arts, but being specifically in the Filipino martial art industry, I see it more here. But I do know, and when we talk about these things, here's what I want to let everyone know. If whatever industry you're in, whatever branch of the martial art industry you're in, you are not the only one that has political nonsense going on. It's hilarious. Like, I was talking to GM Michael Haron, and he goes, and I was talking about all these issues here, there, and everywhere in Filipino martial arts, in Kempo, in Taekwondo, and he goes, you do a lot of research on this. I go, I don't do any research on this. I'm a guest instructor at a lot of events. And since I'm from the outside, I'm the person that everyone vents to. So, when I'm teaching at a Kempo event, I hear all the Kempo politics. When I'm teaching at a Taekwondo event, I hear all the Taekwondo politics. When I am brought into a Filipino martial art event that's not my own, I hear about those stuff. And of course, we know the stuff in our own industry. So, we're not the only ones that have this problem, but we need a course correction, especially now. Think about this. Here's the big thing. 40% of all schools in the United States have closed permanently due to COVID. Now, there are very few Filipino martial arts schools, and you might sit there and say, well, I have a school. No, you don't, most likely. What most likely you have is a training group that's in another entity. We're when I started, I was taught out of my backyard, and then a guy, Bill Adams, in the area, gave me the keys to his place, and he told me to use his facility. But if his facility closed, I wouldn't have a place to train. And I went into my church. If something happened to the church, I wouldn't have a place to train. Eventually, I got to the point where I had retail space, or office space first. So I was a part-time school owner, which was a full-time job during the day, and the school eventually paid for itself at night. And then now to where I'm at, where the business pays for everything itself. And that's why we have FMA Professionals, which Friday we'll have the next episode of that. Now, let's talk about the topic. Toxic personalities. So I'm going to tell you what happened this weekend. You can look on my Facebook page. You'll see who I'm talking about. But this person is just another symptom of the problem. He is not the only one I've been dealing with for a while. He's not the only person in our industry doing stuff. But, Friday I had a great day. Friday, not realizing it, I worked with one of my oldest black belts, George. He's been training with me since the 90s. We've been doing privates together. Partway through that, we heard back from another black belt that used to hang out with the three of us back in the day, Kevin. And then, when I got home that night, thanks, Nathan. When I got home that night, I looked at my email, my calendar, which I haven't been doing a lot lately because, all the days blend together. And it was the 14th anniversary from when Grandmaster Ernesto promoted me to a 9th degree black belt in Grandmaster. It was a nice day. The next day I had the 4th part of our Astig Balintawak program, our seminars, our hybrid seminar series. So, and just so everyone knows, Astig is my personal brand. It is not a new style of Balintawak. It's a hybrid delivery system, but I teach Balintawak Escrima. I've been doing Balintawak since 2000. I was a personal student of Ted Buat, and I was the first to be allowed to teach seminars in that. So I did the 4th one of that. For the school, we had our Kids Night Out party, which was a huge success. Already planned on doing for our Mother's Day event, and I've already got people signing up for it. So everything's good. During the event, I posted that in the fall, I'll be doing a series on Tappy Tappy, which, in my opinion, Tappy Tappy and modern Arnis is probably one of the most misunderstood of our topics. It started at least in the 70s, if not earlier. Professor was teaching it. And the version that I got, my Tappy Tappy, as I'm adjusting my camera. I need to get a tripod for this. My Tappy Tappy, well, no, what Tappy Tappy was when it first started was the Sagitas of Balintawak. We can talk about that. I mean, by all means, there's the shameless plug. Come do the seminars. And there's hybrid options. So I put up the post on this, and a person starts making comments about it. And lo and behold, they're talking about how they're unimpressed on what Tappy Tappy is like. And I explained to the person that, hey, it's really the original Tappy Tappy. You'll see much of the Balintawak roots. And then, the person, are you really going to be teaching the original? Yeah, I'm going to be teaching it from the era that I learned, the early 80s, all the way up until what Professor did in 2000, until he had to stop teaching, including going forward with the Balintawak infusion, because he had me and a couple other people training in Balintawak so he could pick out pieces of material to take Balintawak into the neck, or put more of the Balintawak into the Tappy Tappy. That's great. All right, thanks a lot, Brock. Now, as we went back and forth, I sat there and said, hey, the person said, well, I never got it to make it work. Well, maybe you couldn't work it because you didn't train to work it. Maybe you sit there. There's holes in this stuff. Is there holes in the stuff, or didn't give it an opportunity? Like when I see something new, I travel. I just did a first seminar since COVID on the road in New Hampshire, and I got the opportunity to train or to teach with Micah May Williams and Steve LaFarge. Now, I've taught with them in the past. It's the second time I've done this, and I watch. But I also got to teach with some. We were doing some Panatukan that weekend, so I got to teach with some serious kickboxing, Thai boxing instructors. And I am constantly looking at what people do, and then I'm like, I don't know if I would do that. Let me ask why. And then I take that piece of material home and I work it, and I try to make it work. And then I sit there and say, you know what, this might work, but it may not work for me because of what I'm trying to do. And that I get that. But you sit there and you do some stuff and you say there's holes in it. Well, what you're really saying is that Remy didn't know what he was doing, because that's the person who taught the material. Now I've got this person making comments about this on my post, and I don't know what this issue was, and he's been making some other comments throughout the years, along with other people. But I'm like, really, do you know what you're saying? Now, I mean, if I had a question with a piece of material, now, I question Professor all the time and say, well, how dare you question Professor? Because how I asked the question. The question wasn't, this shit doesn't work. The question was, I don't understand what I need to do to make it work. Can you show me what I'm missing? Every technique I would ask Professor questions on, because I figured there may be little kernels of knowledge that I might be missing. Now, some of the stuff is very obvious what it is, but others there may be a lot more in-depth things that just don't show up, or if I get that piece early, it will turbocharge my training methodology. So I question Professor all the time. This is the problem what we have as Americans dealing with Asians initially. A lot of the Asian cultures was, you do it because I tell you to. Now, as an American, when I had toys as a kid, I took them apart to see how they work. I put them back together, and I had two piles. One pile of toys that I could take apart, put back together, and other piles that I took apart and I couldn't figure out what to do with it. And I didn't want to tell my parents, so I kind of put that to the side. Oh, it broke. Someone broke it, Mom. Yeah, it wasn't me. Oh, no, I would never do that. And as martial artists in the North America, we'll throw Canada along with this. I feel that what we are inquisitive. We're not questioning authority. We're on a path to seek knowledge. And then there's a lot of cultural issues with this. But like this, I'm sorry. Did you really work it? And are you any good, period? I mean, maybe you just don't have the thing. So as we went back and forth, I sat there and said, you'd have to, he said, you have to prove that it works. I go, fine. Well, you have an open invitation, which I've had an open door invitation for people forever. Come see me at a seminar. Come see me at my school. Let's do what we got to do. Okay. And, I'm sorry, I don't go to New York because I can't have a firearm. Okay. Well, it's an anti-gun state. And your point, and let me see what here. Everything has value. Something work better just for some people. The same way as your rank, your disarms from different angles. Oh, very good. Whoever this person is, they know me very well. Yes. What this person is talking about right here is I rank my disarms. So what Professor did is he taught us disarming, and he gave each disarm an angle of attack for memorization, just like he gave every angle of attack a body part for memorization. But if you watch Professor, he did the same disarm off of multiple lines of attack. So I actually will grade my disarms A through D. The disarm is meant for this angle of attack. B, it's a good backup disarm, works pretty well. C, this is more for theoretical category completion, but it's still in the realm of possibility. D, don't do it because it's dangerous. So I'll take every disarm, do it off of every angle attack, and find out where it works and find out where it doesn't. And that's what this grading methodology is. So great point there. So getting back to the point, as I offered the person to come in along with many other people, okay, all right. I don't know why, James. Don't know, but thanks. I said, "Come on, your open invitation." Oh, I don't leave the state because I can't leave the state because I can't bring my gun. Well, really, what he's saying is he can't leave his house because he's scared. Remy traveled the world teaching martial arts unarmed. I've taught the same. I take the same path. I've taught in 26 states, 17 countries over the last 2 decades, and I'm in too many places where they will take and check weapons. I can't go through metal detectors. Can't be on a plane with stuff. So as far as that answer, I'm sorry. I'm going to call bullshit on that one. I'm not going to say it's stupid like the person said. I'm calling bullshit. All right. I remember an incident with Professor in Michigan where some illustrious martial arts grandmaster allegedly put a hit out on Professor saying, telling his students you should retire him. And I've heard this from multiple sources from that group of people, that organization. So a letter popped up on Jay Spiro's doorstep, which was the host, in Tagalog, if I'm not mistaken. It was taken to Ted Buat, my Balintawak instructor. He translated it and said things like, you've been dodging so-and-so for decades. You should retire or we're going to retire you. So I was part of the security detail to take care of Professor. He actually stayed in the house with us the whole weekend, which was a great experience for me. I mean, there are so many things that he and I got to go over while we were there together. And he got to meet my crew because there was like 7 of us staying in the house plus Professor. And we had some very fun times. Well, of course, when the day comes up, one person showed up that was squirrely, paid for the seminar, and then boogied. Professor didn't dodge people, nor do I. All you had to do is pick up a book, a magazine, because that's what we did at the time. We didn't have the internet. At least not the way we do now. And you can see a whole list of all the seminars that Professor was. It wasn't dodging anybody. You want to see Professor? Here's a list of places where he's going to be. And I've done the same thing. I've heard this time and time again. I'm like, listen, I live in a suburb of Buffalo, New York. These are the seminars I'm doing. And prior to COVID, for the last 2 decades, I've been averaging 35 plus seminars a year. So it's not like I don't go in your area. But if you're going to make these comments, at least have the conviction to show up and do so. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? And hello, Mr. Sam. Okay, so, and for those who are joining us, this is being fed live to, it's on, I'm looking at it. I got multiple screens going on right now, so I'm looking over here, which is my right, your left. It is on YouTube, so if you missed it, you can watch it there. This is the first time I'm doing it, so I'm really excited about this, so hopefully this all works. So as I went on to this, I looked at this, and this, I've had other comments from this person. Like, one of the things I've did, for Modern Arnis as a whole, I did the Modern Arnis Forms Project. Now, I was the senior forms instructor for Professor from about 92, 94, somewhere around there. I became the Can-Am director for the IMAF, the International Modern Arnis Federation. And one of my jobs, it started, we hosted a camp in Buffalo. And we had 3 camps here. Hello, guys. And one of the jobs I was doing was teaching the forms when we come to Buffalo. Okay. I ran the only full-time Modern Arnis school that I know of while Professor was alive. I know people who've done hybrid schools where a really high concentration of modern, there's some schools out there that were pretty much 50-50, half their main art and half Modern Arnis. Okay. But when the people say, well, why do the things look so differently? Because people were blending with different things. So when you watch the forms, Remy encouraged stylistic interpretation. So a lot of people, if they were karate people, they did their forms karate-esque, kung fu-esque, and so on and so forth. So, my job was to teach the forms. And one of the things that would happen is a lot of people did them differently because they were doing it based on their original system. So, at camp, there'd be lines I'd have people knocking on my door at midnight at Michigan State University, waiting to ask me forms question because, I was a lot younger and I was nocturnal and the door was always open and the fridge was always stocked with Canadian beer. So, and those were the times when you're young and foolish and brain cells weren't working. So I was constantly teaching that, okay? Constantly fixing people's forms. And any camp I showed up to that I participated in about after 94, when it came time to teach the forms, Professor would give me the room. He might take some of the black belts to the side and work tappy-tappy, the stuff that they needed to work on. I didn't need that much of it because, well, this is what I was doing as a primary system. So, he would take those people who need a little extra, or maybe he needed a break because he had gout and sometimes it would flare up. And he was doing stuff like 40 weekends of the year. And when his was insane because he would do 2 events a weekend. He'd come in, when he first came to Buffalo, before I started hosting him exclusively, he would come in on a Friday, teach the seminar Saturday, and fly out to Connecticut or Chicago or something Sunday morning and do another seminar there. And every weekend he was doing that. No one did the quantity of seminars that Professor did. Nobody. Hey, Chris, how you doing? My man. So, one of the things, getting back on point, and I get distracted. Go figure. I was the forms guy. So, one of the projects recently during COVID I decided to start up was the Modern Arnis Forms Project. So, I was doing a bunch of Modern Arnis minutes, which they've now evolved to minutes, which was, if you can look on my YouTube channel, you'll see it used to be a 1 minute lesson, intro plus a 1 minute lesson. Now it's minutes, plural, and whatever. But I've got a nice channel with a bunch of different things that I've shared free of charge. I went over the forms, and the stick forms were taught incorrectly based on concepts of movement the professor taught. So I had one person who never even did the forms until I gave him the forms video and now became this self-appointed expert on what the forms should be, start this huge nonsense on the internet saying on how I was wrong. But I'm like, yeah, but you based your forms off the video I gave you. Whatever. You took the video, you learned the material, and refilmed it with your name on it. Go figure. The other thing, and then I had the same person from before when I'm doing the forms and I'm doing the blocks and say, well, we don't do that because, you can defeat those blocks. Let me talk about forms real quick. Forms are not for fighting. Let me say that once again in case you didn't get it. Let me say it. Most forms are not for fighting. Forms' general purpose are a bunch of self-defense reference points. You don't sit there and say, well, this is how I would counter the move in that form. Bullshit. Okay? What kind of moron are you? The form is to teach self-defense. And at the end of the day, any move can be countered when you know the person's doing it. So when I have these people, this one person in particular, saying, well, I can counter that move. Sure, but you're not going to know when I'm going to do that move. So can you counter the move? Let's look at professional sports. Let's look at football. How many times this play will beat everybody until they figure it out? Or this defense works great except against this offense. Martial arts is a game of guessing. Educated guessing, like chess. You try to predict what your opponent's going to do, and sometimes you guess wrong. So, and I don't know, like I said, this clown who's been busting my chops as of late. I don't know what's up his ass, because everything that was posted as of late. I mean, over the and it's probably the COVID lockdown, But with everything going on, every time I post something, my teacher, he was one of Remy's original students. I go, really? No, do you know of anybody who started before him? Yeah, a whole shitload of people in Sacramento and San Francisco, because that's where Remy started stuff. Matter of fact, I'd say someone who's living in the States still, probably his longest running American student, wait for it, Bruce Jutnick. Remy, when he came over, lived with a cousin for a while. I think he spent a little time with Max Palin, and then eventually moved in with Bruce Jutnick, Hanshi Bruce Jutnick. Okay, which I just talked to him yesterday, or not yesterday. Great, cool. With the excuse me, I'm gonna. Oh, excuse me. That's why I shouldn't be drinking while I'm talking. Bruce Jutnick told me that he is probably like 90% locked in at next year's 65th anniversary camp. So, and he's got awesome stories about Professor when he first came over. But that's another story. We'll get into that. Because once again, I'm going down that rabbit hole. I got to stay focused. That's it. If you ever watched the movie Up, I'm like the dog, squirrel. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's an awesome movie. You got to watch it. Pixar did it, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I'm going to just do some things here while I'm talking to you guys. Perfect. I got that all set up. So, as we work on things in the future, I'm going down this path to make sure. Why don't I have this here? That's weird. That should be the case, so I'm just going to do that there. Okay. So, stop it, Papa. You're enabling me. You bastard. So this toxicity is just enough. I mean, I see things. I said, when you start picking on forums, and let me talk about the forums that I posted. I post these forums to the community So the material's not lost. That was what the Modern East Forms project is. I put the stick forms up there. I've got 6 of them up there so far. I got 3 of the hand forms, 3 of the stick forms. But obviously with COVID, I have to focus on my business to keep things running. So I got a little, but that's half of the forms. There's a total of 12 forms, 4 stick, 8 open hand. So I got to get the rest of that up there. But once again, I didn't create the forms. That was Professor. Why did you wait to now to make comments 20 years after he's gone? And it's like a whole bunch of things. A bunch of us who okay, I'm one of 6 Datus, okay, and a couple of us are white. Actually, the majority of us are white. Only 2 are Filipino. And people have over the years have taken a shot at us Caucasians on this. Where the hell were you when Remy was alive? You didn't have the backbone to say shit. That's what. And we weren't self-promoted. We didn't do that. My Grandmaster title, from Ernesto, not self-promoted. Okay? Now, in our organization, we'll talk about this, will be another topic. Ernesto was supposed to promote me to my next level. I was a 9th degree black belt in Combatant, 7th level, 6th degree, but 7th level, because modern goes black then first. Ernesto passed away, but he told me, you're coming to the Philippines for your final promotion. Okay. When he passed away, I went from doing modern Arnis, and I still promote modern Arnis in Combatant, but I combined the 2 curriculums into one, calling it, wait for it, Presas Arnis. Now, I didn't rebrand this, and Presas Arnis will blend the 2 arts together. Let me see here. I find people chirping when their egos hurt, and they only. Yep. Ass hats, I like that. I'm more of an ass clown guy. But, when I do these things, and of course, I took heat on different things. And when I did that, I combined the curriculum and I say, for the organization's sake, I am a 10th degree black belt in the Presas Arnis for the World Modern East Alliance. But at the end of the day, I'm a 9th. I thought you were going to say Modern Combatant. Oh, hell no, because it doesn't. Here, actually, let me surprise. Modern Combatant wouldn't give Remy credit. You say, well, it's modern, but people wouldn't relate to that. So let me do this. I love having multiple screens. It only works though when you know what you're doing, and even then, it doesn't work. It's more okay. Here we go. I like it. I'll pull this one up. Let me see if that works well, and I'll share it on the screen. So Modern Combatant, I get it. And we actually toyed with the ideas, and that was for 5 seconds. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't promote what Remy was doing. So, what I do right here. Yeah, man, I don't know why he keeps doing this all the time. Boom, share. So this is what I go by. Presas Arnis, and it says in the bottom, Modern Arnis and Combatant. I embrace both halves of the family. I got the brothers to speak to each other, which is another topic, which we're going to be going into another series. It is the, I agree, though, Presas Arnis makes more sense. It does. What I'm going to be talking about is we're going to be doing the Modern Arnis Chronicles, because there's been a bunch of interviews out there on Modern Arnis, and a lot of people got a lot of good information, but they're a little off. So I want to do a series. I'm going to be doing a series specifically on Modern Arnis, and so we can chronicle this, and we'll put it up on YouTube, so it's free of charge, so people can watch it, so we don't lose the history. I think it's very important. But now I'm going off the rails again. Instead of doing things private, there's always these public comments. Why? If I have a problem with somebody, generally I say it privately. There's no reason to put this out on the net for everyone to see if you've got an issue. Now, why am I addressing this way? Well, because the person opened up the door, has been continually opening up this door, and he's not the only one. I'm just sick of it. So during COVID, I decided that I was going to start removing all the toxic personalities out of my lifestyle. I need to worry about me and my family and my business, and not jerk around with a bunch of ass clowns out there who are either jealous or insecure of things. It's funny, the hypocrisy out there. This talks about all the toxic nonsense and this venom out there. You will have people. I will make a comment. So I'm gonna say one right now. I was the highest ranked as well as tested black belt in the States at the time of Professor Presas' passing. Now, when I say this, okay, I was the highest test in over 17 years, and I was the highest active ranked black belt. So this is not me trash talking any of the other black belts. Okay. Now, first of all, someone's going to say, what about these people? Well, to be active, you need to be interactive. Rank is not a constant thing. It's like, listen, Muhammad Ali will always be the champ, but he's not the champ. Everyone remembers him being, some people think he was the best of all time. Mike Tyson was the champ. But neither of them are at the moment, obviously, because Ali's passed on. But the thing here is, you are, and of course the phone's ringing, so I will get to that later. I'll go back there. I don't know. With boxing, the champ is whoever's doing stuff at that time. Okay. And, that's being active. Okay, that was the number one person, and you're seated in the rankings based on what you're doing at that moment. But once you retire, you're done. And to be active, you need to be interactive. Oh, I never stopped training. Yeah, but if you haven't been around for 5-6 years, how accurate is your material, and did you have that fine tuning? Like, Professor had a thing called expiration dates on the diplomas. I do it as renewal because it's a little more palatable. And that's really what it is. We don't want to say that the belt expires, because people don't like that. We renew it, okay? And people say, well, how do you lose a black belt? I go, well, let's think about this. You don't keep up with your training. A 10-year-old gets a black belt and then stops training, and maybe 10 years or so later, he goes back into martial arts. What is he? He is a person that once earned his black belt. The status is no longer active. They come back in the club, and they're not going to start in the white belt class, but they need to brush things up before they move forward. Now, if I have a 10-year-old black belt, that's got to be a junior black belt, not an adult black belt. Thank you, Mr. User. I'm assuming that's James. So, if doctors have to recertify, pilots need to log a certain amount of hours to keep your, to parachute, you need to do so many jumps. Scuba divers have to swim so many hours. We have to renew our driver's license, and things can happen. And some certifications and courses are no longer valid after time. Like a computer degree from the 80s is not going to be the same as one from 2000 or beyond, right? It's different when you're working on that old Atari. So, thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. Now, so getting back to that, I was the highest tested black belt and the highest active rank by professor's words. Now, I had people get in my face about that during an interview. So I made there's a whole bunch of things that happen. There's FMA Pulse, FMA Talk, which was my FMA Pulse is the guys out in Chicago. FMA Talk was first. FMA Talk was me. It was a discussion group on the internet. It was a spin-off of Martial Talk, which was another group that I was part of that I helped build. Bob Hubbard and I created both of these. Bob had the technology, I had the network, and it grew to both of the events, or the groups grew to be the biggest in what they do, or one of the biggest. So Martial Talk was, I think, in the top 5 martial art discussion groups, and FMA Talk was the number 1 Filipino martial art discussion group in the world at the time. Then acquaintances of mine, they wanted to do podcasts, so that we co-branded it with FMA Talk Live, and then there was FMA Pulse, and now there's FMA Discussion with unrelated, so there's a lot of FMA blah, 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 blah. So I was interviewed at a tournament in Chicago, and usually I would say that I was the highest tested, and I stayed away from highest rank because some people got twisted. But I mean, at the end of the day, why would I downplay my credentials? And I've had people over the years. This is that whole toxicity, if that's a word. I've had people over the years try to make me feel bad for my accomplishments, for the things I've done. So when I say I was the highest ranked black belt at the time of Professor passing in the States, it was true. Okay. Now I've heard some things that people got ranked after Professor was diagnosed. Well, I was with him. I was the only American with him in Germany when he got diagnosed. And he offered to promote me, and I turned it down. And of course, I told the chairman of the board, hey, you need to get him out of here before people get promoted, before someone with less ethics, comes over and tries to do something. Well, of course, a bunch of Americans came over and they got promoted, go figure. But while he was healthy, I was the highest active ranked black belt, and who knows what he wanted to promote me into Germany. I had told him, don't worry about it, we'll get through there. And there's going to be topics on the Modern Arnis Chronicles, but I had a whole slew of people just come at me. And I referenced a discussion group. Elisa McManus, he was a self-appointed historian of modern Arnis, and I pointed to the article where she reported on this, and they said, well, that's one person went off crazy on me on this. I'm like, well, dude, if you knew anything, I go, you were there was a group of people. He was part of this group. He was the only one that wasn't there in that group. And I was coming back from Venezuela and getting ready to go to the Philippines. I said, we'll talk about it when I come back. And, of course, afterwards, it turned out, after he talked to me, he's like, this is bullshit. What about this person, that person, the other thing? And then he ended up talking to somebody who was at the event, and it was verified that Professor said that I was the highest active, I was the top guy in North America. Well, actually, United States, but that really means North America because we had a couple people up in Canada, but they were lower ranked than me. But we'll say verbatim, highest ranked guy in America. Okay. Radio silence. I go to call the person back when I get back from the Philippines, refuses to respond to my calls. And I get this all the time. I mean, someone will make a claim, and this is once again the toxicity. It's sad that, I do something and I make a comment like that, which was verified, which doesn't take away from anyone else, because who cares who's the highest ranked person? It matters on who's doing what. At the end of the day, you can, you got to do your own work. So they make a comment, it gets verified, and then they go all radio silence. But when they do something very similar, then all of a sudden I ask for some form of verification, or explanation. How dare you? I won't talk to you because of this. I mean, the hypocrisy is terrible. And that's it. This is the problem with what we got going on here. We need to move forward. I mean, there's so much stuff out there, and I've even dealing with this memorial camp's been a pain in the ass, and all these other things. I've had people that have changed things, gave me ultimatums, and then I'm like, well, thanks for resigning. Resignation accepted. People telling me about all of it, and I'm getting sick of this stuff, because I make a comment about my rank and my experience, and people cry foul. Oh, how dare you say that's wrong? And then they find I'm right. I'm going down that rabbit hole again. But then, I hear all this stuff about guardians of this and masters of that, and titles supersede rank, but you needed to have rank to get said title. I mean, it's all bullshit, but I'm supposed to take it. But when they question something that I don't make a claim, I make a statement that's verifiable. And I see this all the time. I mean, first of all, when you do this stuff, why do you have to do it public? I mean, then there's this other thing. The other thing that annoys the hell out of me is this, and this might not be the right term, but this martial stolen valor. So I see in martial arts, and where someone makes a claim, and then someone tries to do a one-upmanship to them. So I put down the anniversary of my first black belt promotion, and then some knucklehead decides to put up every single diploma 1 or 2 days later in this yard. Then I've got, I talk about either my 20th or 25th anniversary in the art. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, my 25th anniversary of the art was a month ago, and I spent it here in the Presas family house. I'm like, but you didn't think about that. And make this whole big post, not attached to mine, but separately, months after the anniversary would have been and all this other stuff. And then, and then I put a yellow belt diploma. Well, that's funny. I was this belt level when I was that. I'm like, well, then why aren't you better than you are now? And it's like, and some of these people, when they've made these comments, there have been a barrage of some public rebuttals from other people. But the fact of the matter here is, a lot of this stuff is like, why? I mean, like, I taught the first seminar for Filipino Martial Arts in Iceland, which I was shocked that no one said anything about that, because when I did possibly the first modern Arnis seminar in Venezuela, I got someone saying, well, I have someone who's there. One of my old students is there. I go, oh, really? And they put it out publicly. But then when I asked them, well, where is this person? The comment was, they're in a monastery or something along like that. Well, then what you're saying is you have a student there who moved there as a missionary or something, but are they teaching? And the answer was no. And I'm like, well, why do you even bother making a comment? So let me see here. I'm way more interested in the person's depth of knowledge and their ability to teach than their supposed rank. Yep. Well, and that's the one thing I've gone by in too with all the stuff. I mean, it's amazing how the nonsense I put up with stuff. So obviously, this is what I do for a promotion or for a living. I've been very fortunate to take my passion and turn it into my profession, and it's still my passion. Like, I love attending seminars. I love learning from other people. We have wristbands that we use for our belt rankings in the school, and on the outside it's the color, and then it says Presas Arnis on the inside. Student for life. And that's where I'm there. So okay, so here's a good one. Let's see what it is. So how do we fix this issue in the martial art community? Is it a matter of business education? If we are all successful spreading training methods, will it reduce drama? Or is it a bumpy chess game inherited with martial arts? Well, hopefully both. I mean, I'm not. It's unfortunately both. Here's the problem. I have people say, well, they talk about all these issues, and I get along with so many people. But they say, well, you don't get along with the modern age people. Well, the people I generally don't get along with are the ones that I possibly I can fact check them. So when you say you're the highest, the end all, be all, and then people like me are doing stuff like there's a group of people that say that they're above and beyond rank and all this other stuff, yet there were organizations on life support prior to COVID, and I'm the one traveling around the world doing seminars. If they were the end all, be all, situations were reversed. I would have nothing, and then they would be doing stuff. I've done the Modern Arnis reunion camp. It was the 10-year anniversary. We put our stuff down to the side. It was a great event. We had 80 some odd people here at my school. It was the largest Modern Arnis event after Professor Presas passed on. I put good money in everyone's pocket. I didn't pay for travel, but I paid for hotels, meals, and put a bunch of money in everyone's pocket. Not to mention they could sell merchandise and get seminars. This was great. So then it gave Datu Dieter the opportunity of doing the same thing in Germany. We all came here. He said, Tim, I want to do this. I go, I'm there. And he tried to explain the whole thing to me. I go, dude, you showed up to my event. I'll show up to yours. Because this is what the community does. So Dieter did his event. So now it's time for other people in the industry to take their turn. No one did. No one did at all. I've had people, after we were coming back from the Germany event, I will never have Tim in my house, in my school. Well, wait a minute. So what kind of hypocrisy is that? You'll show up to my event because I'll put money in your pocket. but you won't host people. You won't even take a chance. And I understand some people don't have the same means, but there's a lot of ways to pay things back and do things back and forth. We need to understand. I mean, first of all, the biggest problem is we can't, it's jealousy and insecurity. That's the problem, the toxicity here. We're a bunch of crabs. You go to Chinatown, you see the barrel of crabs, and the crabs don't get out because the ones in the bottom pull the ones trying to get out back in. There are more than enough people in this world for us to teach. Okay. There's more than, right now, well, actually, I don't know what the number is now. Prior to COVID, 1% of the population was doing martial arts. 1% of that was doing Filipino martial arts. So basically, 1 in 10,000 people do Filipino martial arts. Okay. If, 1 in 100 people do martial arts, instead of fighting for that 1%, wouldn't it be great if we could double that number? Let's say you have a school of 50 people or a club of 50 people, and we could double it, make it 100. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be great? If we could triple that number or quadruple that number. Let's say if we can go to 1 to 4%. So let's say, most Filipino martial art clubs are small. I remember going to the Babakan tournament at Ray Galan's, and we were talking at the tournament. They're like, well, how's your student count? I go, right now it's low. I only got 80 people. It's the summer. 80 people. Holy shit, we'd be lucky to have 8 people. Let's say they had 10 solid people, and we can get 4% of the population does martial arts. Theoretically, that would bump up to 40 people for them. We are the minority of the minority. And this nonsense, we're stronger together than when we're apart. But time and time again, people are going to keep doing this knucklehead bullshit, and they're jealous and insecure. And getting back to the comment about open invitation, I've had people take shots at me forever and a day, and no one ever shows up. I remember the first time in Germany, the Jose Montoya battler, allegedly some special forces guy in the military threatened that if I showed up, he'd knife fight me because of a typo on a website where I was certified in a course through Positive Response, which is a private combatives group. They had a course in U.S. and British hand-to-hand combatives, and I passed the course, and I had that up. That's back in the day, we threw every piece of paper up on our resumes, because that's what we did, and I put that up there, and it was really just a course thing, certification course, participation, blah blah blah, and this person allegedly had, it was most likely some local ass clown that just didn't want to see me do well. I was told, don't go. Well, I went, and nowhere to be found. I had, don't go to the Philippines. Oh, don't go there because you're using a Muslim term. It's not it's mostly Catholics over there, and Datu hasn't been established in the Filipino culture as a Datu term or name, and we've gone over this recently with people using food products, bands, DJs using the term Datu. So don't think so. And when the one time I was in the street, someone yelled, Datu Tim, thought that was the time to go down. It was Bambatulai, man. Hey, sir, big hugs and all this other stuff. They call me Datu and Grandmaster over there. I tell them to call me Tim, and they continue to call me Datu and Grandmaster. That's them doing it. I don't require that. But, don't go there because of this. Okay, whatever. Getting a stick, do a tournament. The host, the instructor who was running the division was cheating. And when the video got to the tournament host, they couldn't undo the calls, but what they could do is name me and the other person co-champions because there was a lot of shenanigans going on. So after that got out publicly, this person challenged me to a stick fight. I said, well, I'm going to be down that way. Let's do this. Padded, live stick, whatever you want. No, nothing. Then he keeps talking on the internet and talks to me how, I'm this, that, and the other thing. Hey, anytime, any place. Then on the phone, we'll go to the Philippines and do this. I'll fly you there in front of your peers. Fine, I could always use another free trip to the Philippines. We've got to stop with this false bravado. We got to stop. If you got a question for someone, ask them privately. And the thing here is, let's not get twisted. What does a belt do? It covers 2 inches of your body. What does a diploma do? Well, you can wipe your butt with it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to cover your butt. It's not going to. You still have to step up and do what you got to do. Now, for the people who are doing what they're doing, keep doing it. Okay? But the people who are sitting on the sidelines making these comments, whining, crying, complaining, but not doing any better, I go, there's a couple, I have a little couple different discussion groups, and one is a very small discussion group, and we've busted some chops privately about some people who are poser-ish, and but it's a private group. It's like 4 or 5 guys. We just talk. We vent every now and then. But the one thing I'll say to is, like, we got to give these people credit. What? They're out there doing it at least. They're out there in the trenches, getting seminars, spreading the art. We can't fault them. I mean, they should be doing a better job, but at least they're out doing it. There's a lot of people I see out there that, oh my God, these guys suck. But they're doing it, and they're spreading the art. And if people think that if it inspires people to keep getting in what we're doing, then it's a good thing. Do I want a higher quality representing of what we're doing? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. But, the thing here in general is like the martial art industry as a whole. I don't care what you do. I mean, do I want them to do Filipino martial arts? Well, of course I do. But as long as they're doing martial arts, it's good for the whole group. What do we got here? LOL. What absorbed into your mind that counts? Yep. Very good, John. So, we need to, as a martial art community, not just Filipino martial arts, but as a martial art community, because a lot of us may have multiple backgrounds. Now, all of my I've got one I do Bondo with Dr. G. Really more of a private student than anything else, but you know what? They're still my brothers and sisters in the Bondo community. I do multiple Filipino martial arts. Arnis is my primary. I also do Kombatan, Balintawak, Dikita Tertia, a little, Kuntao, Sikaran, and off the top of my head, I probably forgot something, But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which of those they do. It matters that they do martial arts, and as a community, we get together, realizing that we're stronger together. And it just, and right now I'm in that process, so I'm telling everyone what I'm going to be doing, and this is my recommendation to everybody else, especially now with this stupid ass COVID cabin fever. Okay. It's with an A, not an O. It's a Burmese martial art. So Bando, or from Myanmar. They call, I don't know how you'd say it because they changed the name. John, anytime you want to talk about it, just let me know. We can talk. Really can't get into that at the moment. But it's not Bondo like what you put on a car. That's a whole different thing. But as a whole, we need to pull together as a community. We need to be less intimidated. And, the thing here is, when someone writes an article, okay, someone wrote an article on Arnis. I don't like the person. But if it attracted more people to the art, then it did its job. Okay? Someone does a video. Doesn't matter whether I like the person or not. If it brings more people in, it helps all of us, because, I was in an article, and the sidebar article was Arnis' Next Generation. It was part of the last time Professor was on the cover of Black Belt Magazine, launching his video series that Black Belt Magazine did with him. And so they did a sidebar article, The Art Within Your Art, or the Arnis' Next Generations. And it talked about a bunch of people, and I was one of the instructors, and a whole bunch of people got twisted. But I'm like, well, let me ask you this. Was it a good article? Yeah. Well, what are you worried about? Well, it mentioned you and not the others. So what? What's going to happen? Some guy in Chicago is going to see the article, get inspired, and look at Tim Hartman and call Tim Hartman up and say, where are you? I'm in Buffalo, New York. Oh. do you know anybody out this way? I go, yeah, okay. And at the time, it would be David Converse, and who's in Joliet, and Kenny Smith, which is in some part of Chicago, and I don't know where, and another good friend of mine in the metro Chicago area, Tim Murray. Those are the three names I had. And depending on what era, maybe George Mazak. Those would be the four names that I would have known in Chicago, depending on what era. And say, or someone in Detroit gets excited. Well, one person who was in there in Detroit was, wait for it, Jay Spiro, who was one of the oldest people one of the longest students in Detroit. But let's say, well, I live up in Flint. Well, there was the Flint Modern Arnis group up there. I never knew them. I met them at a seminar here and there, and I got to know them post Remy's life, but not really during Remy's life. Jim Powers ran that one up there. There's places all over people all over the place. And when I look at this article, I don't get jealous. I go, yeah, I wish it was me. But then again, it's okay, because if it inspires people in my area to reach out, I may get new students. Just like I saw someone who got a FMA seminar in Greece, and I've always wanted to do one in Greece. I'm like, I wish that was me, but good for them. Good for them. I mean, come on. I said earlier, I taught in 17 countries. How many more do I need? I want them all. but at the end of the day, you know what? I'm respectfully jealous of someone else. I don't trash talking behind their back, because at the end of the day, good for them. It doesn't matter. You got your things, I got mine. It's all good. So here's what I think we need to do. I'm going to wrap it up here because it's coming up on an hour. What I think as a community, what we need to do is just embrace difference and do our own work, because no one's going to do it for us. If you see that someone else is doing something, don't complain about them. Get out there and do it yourself. You don't like the fact that someone's doing seminars that you think you're a better job of it, then do the steps that you need to get out there. You don't like the quality of someone else doing something, then show them how it's done. Get out there in public and do that there. So now I got some things I'm gonna have to do this. Okay. All right. So interesting news in the school. Not a big deal. All right. So listen. Here's the deal. We need to move forward. We need to stop this bullshit. If you have a question on something and talking to someone, message them private. And if someone's being unreasonable, and what I've started doing this last year, more so than before, ban them. If you don't like what people are saying, you can turn it off. The nice thing about when people say, there was a show one time, Facebook ruined my life. No, you ruined your life, idiot. Because you didn't have to be on Facebook. You could have turned Facebook. Well, people posted all this stuff on there, and you can report them. So when I ran FMA Talk, I had a bunch of people whine and cry and complain to me. I'm like, well, hit the button, report the moderator if you don't like it. I don't have time to read every post that's up there. And then I'll look at the post, and if the person needs to be suspended, I can't tell you on how many people I've suspended and whom I've suspended and eventually kicked off FMA Talk. And they'll and that'll be another topic. So we need to move forward. Stop the petty bullshit. And if someone is being unreasonable and you can't find any way that works for you, simple, ban them. And that's what I'm starting to do more so than before. Okay, so next week, or this Friday, I'm going to do the next episode of FMA Professionals, and it's going to be how to host a seminar. The past one, I talked about building a seminar career. So I'm going to talk about how to host seminars, and it'll talk on both sides, i.e. How to host it, and then what things the instructor should do, because both sides need to protect themselves and make sure there's no misunderstandings, and I've seen some bad things happen. Next week on Datu's Live. Datu Corner Live. I've had a few topics in my mind, and I'm not sure which direction I really want to go in. But I will be here every Monday at 11 o'clock, unless I'm on the road, which doesn't look like it's going to be for a while. We will continue doing Datu's Corner Live. So I hope everyone got something out of it. If it was just me venting, thanks for listening to me. And I'm going to sign out now. So, and someone liked they said I had a badass opening credit. Well, I think I've got a badass closer as well. So, as always, everybody, please stay safe, stay sane. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone live in the future. And this is Datu Hartman signing out.